The more I research, the more I come to understand how divinely equipped the body is for healing itself once we remove the impediment. In the tradition of some of the great physicists out of Germany and Austria during the 1970s and 80s, Johan Boswinkel too came to understand that the body is uniquely equipped to use its own cellular light to rebalance its energy systems. The end result is the reversal of just about every known disease. And we're going to take just a moment or two to look at a little video that will set this interview up and give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about. Well, that was a nice little setup. And I noticed that one little phrase in there, that disease begins with a lack of light. And of course, we don't think of our bodies in this way at all anymore. We think we can throw something at it.
Yeah. But the body is the most sensitive instrument on this planet.
Absolutely. And I would like to start with a little bit of your own life, because this is quite a journey for you. You had a lot of different interests as a young man when you were still in the age of going to university, and you studied many different things, and every time you would stop because the human factor was not taken into account. Give us an idea of that part of your young journey.
I mean, my father taught me to always question everything. And when I studied economy, I was wondering why economic plans never work. And I came to the conclusion that economic plans, they cannot work. Economy cannot work if they don't include the human factor. In order to find out more about humans, I studied medicine. I was very naive. And I found that medicine, you learn everything about diseases, bacteria, viruses, drugs, but you didn't learn anything about humans.
I know, isn't that amazing? Psychology, same thing. Everything about pathology, drugs, and diagnosis, but nothing about the human.
Yeah.
So there was a point in this journey where something turned the light on for you, literally, that became the quest that has resulted in this amazing technology to last you a lifetime. And what was that? And you have Fritz Albert Poppen here. Give us an idea of what you discovered that really turned you on to this.
Well, I mean, at one time, an acupuncturist in New Zealand asked me to translate a couple of articles from German into English. These German articles were written by Fritz Popp, Wolfgang Ludwig,
yes,
and Burkhard Heim. He was a mathematician who had proven mathematically that we all lived in 12 dimensions. And Dr. Wolfgang Ludwig, he was specialized in magnetic fields and how they influence thing, our body and our being. And Fritz Popp, of course, he discovered the biophotons. And after my discovery there, I realized that human beings were light beings. Something that was already known by the ancient Egyptians, because it's already written in the hieroglyphs, and that those people were light beings, and they thought with their heart.
Yes.
And they thought with the mind, which is really in the heart. This is the brain.
Absolutely. And very good point, because it's now coming around through other technologies, that the understanding that part of the journey of the human right now is to learn to be able to access information from the heart, to listen to the heart again, which is so clogged up with pathways of other information and disinformation. Very difficult for us to intuitively hear ourselves in our own bodies anymore.
Yeah, you always have to listen to yourself.
Yes.
We are taught to listen to everybody else, but we're not taught to listen to us. And
Yes.
we are the only ones that know.
Absolutely. I had the pleasure of interviewing Wolfgang Ludwig, you spoke about, back in the mid to late 1980s, around 1986. And one thing he said, many things he said stuck with me. It's the first time I'd heard the term boson. No one was using the term that I had heard of back then. The other thing was, he was saying, and we're going to get into this in your work, that it all starts in the guts. The immune system starts in the guts.
The immune system starts in the hormonal system. All the hormonal glands, they are our guardians. And the hormonal glands are also the physical manifestation of all the chakras.
Yes.
And the chakras are the gates to the outside world. And if the hormonal system, basically every function in the body is controlled by hormones. And if the hormonal system is off, then everything goes off. So in my work too, the first thing that we do is restore the hormonal system.
Well, that makes perfect sense. All the master glands are giving the direction for every other function in the body. So, and there have to be huge disturbances in the hormonal systems. Just looking around, by evidence alone, it would appear the hormonal system of even young, seemingly healthy people of a younger age group, even there are a lot of disturbances in the hormonal systems now.
Everybody who really had vaccination has disturbance in its hormonal system. And one thing which is also very common in the United States is whiplash.
Whiplash. And what's that have to do with the hormones?
Well, if you normally you have one energetic body.
Yes.
If you have whiplash, you have two. One here and one here.
Oh.
Here is nothing. And here are two important glands, the parathyroid gland and the thyroid gland.
Right.
If they don't get energy, it results in major complications.
Is this just because we're bad drivers and we're getting whiplash as a result of that, or is it?
That might be one occasion, but the other occasion is the incredible amount of sports.
Oh yes.
Because you can get a whiplash from anything, from playing football, from hockey. Any fall or drop can cause a whiplash. Even birth can cause a whiplash. Yoga can cause a whiplash. So there are many reasons. I believe that many reasons for whiplashes. And I believe that such a whiplash condition might also result in thyroid problems.
Interesting.
And thyroid problems might again create tumors. And other hormonal disturbances, because the hormonal glands are all in touch with each other.
Right. We talked off camera, and you mentioned it a moment ago, vaccines. And before we get into how you actually discovered this technology, because you've already brought it up, I think it's important to go there. What happens when we load the body with these vaccines in terms of, as you say, this recognition system for whether the body is well or unwell?
Well, there are really only, I found two vaccines are always disturbing the body. One is the polio vaccine, the other one is the anti-tetanus vaccination.
Tetanus, yes.
And the polio vaccination, its job is to prevent paralysis, but what it does do, it paralyzes. And I don't know if it's the only function or a side effect, but polio we always find disturbing your pituitary gland. And your pituitary gland is the chief gland of your body. And the pituitary gland, one of its functions is discrimination.
Discrimination?
Yeah, between what's good and what's bad. And we're all taught not to discriminate but tolerate. But the body says do exactly the opposite. It must discriminate and not tolerate.
Absolutely, it has to be able to use its own intelligence
to decide if anything is going wrong.
Yes.
And the body doesn't do that anymore. The body, if this pituitary gland is disturbed, the body does not recognize that it's being sick. It doesn't take any action. The body lets everything go. And acute situation might turn chronic. And because this body still doesn't take any actions. I mean, nowadays, how often do you hear about fever? You don't hear about it anymore. It's all being tolerated. The body, fever is a body's reaction. Increased white blood cells is a body's reaction. It doesn't happen anymore. That's why doctors in their blood work cannot even discover infections. Because humanity has changed, but medicine has not. Medicine is still in a state that really it was 200 years ago.
Well, you give an example of tetanus that's interesting along that line about what tetanus was originally developed for, the anti-tetanus shots, and then what its extenuating effects are, which is really quite horrible. Yeah. Please talk about tetanus.
Yeah, tetanus was originally a vaccination for horse dirt.
Horse dirt.
Horse dirt.
Yeah. No, we don't interface with that by and large now.
No, but at the time it was also street dirt.
Street dirt?
Yeah, because just horses walked in the streets.
Yeah.
So that's when they start calling it street dirt. And that, but nowadays there's no horses in the streets anymore.
Right.
From occasional police horse.
Yes.
But the thing that if you step in a nail that you need to get a tetanus shot, that's absolutely nonsense. And what the anti-tetanus vaccination does, and this is known medically, that it disrupts the calcium metabolism. So from that moment, your calcium metabolism will do everything wrong with the calcium.
And so how does this show up as we age in life?
This shows up by gallstones. Gallstones are wrongly deposited calcium, kidney stones, arteriosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, because there's calcium deposited in the artery which shouldn't go there, and osteoporosis. So the calcium metabolism draws calcium from the bones and puts it in everywhere else. So giving people calcium for osteoporosis is nonsense, because the body still does the wrong things.
Right. It still doesn't have the correct signal in terms of how to distribute and use it.
No.
Yeah. So you're just throwing more junk at it.
Yeah, you're throwing more junk at the body, and the body dumps it everywhere, leading, for example, to Parkinson's.
That is incorrect calcium metabolism or use?
Yes.
Parkinson's?
Real Parkinson's, yeah, the body gets totally stiff, gets calcified. And that is what, in my opinion, real Parkinson is. There are many people who have Parkinson's symptoms. This is not real Parkinson.
Well, when these little babies are given these cocktails of vaccines, does it still include polio and tetanus?
Yeah,
It does still.
Yeah, I believe kids in the US now get 29 different vaccinations.
And again, off camera when we were talking about this, you said MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, that doesn't seem to have a long-term damaging effect like the others?
No, I don't see that. Although rubella seems to be the cause of MS.
Oh, well, that's a long-term damaging effect.
But MMR, they say those diseases don't exist anymore. But now children get what they call the 4th, 5th and 6th disease. And if you look on the internet, they say see measles, see mumps, see rubella.
I see.
They have. They say, well, people can't get this disease anymore because they're vaccinated. Children still get the same symptoms.
Right.
And now they call them fourth, fifth, and sixth disease, but it is the same.
Mm. When you came into the building today, by a wild coincidence, it turned out that one of the people you saw when you first started developing this technology had come back from Rome with an infection and sought some alternative technology out because nothing was really working to take the fevers down. And I said, wait a minute, it was a man named Johan from the Netherlands. I think it's the same man who's here in the building. He said it was amazing how well your technology worked. Now, this was back in 85.
85, yes.
And now my understanding is you were using some of, you mentioned the three men's work before, including Fitzalbert Popp and the others. You were using some of those basic theories and such when you put together your first device in 1983. Yes. So can you talk about what your thinking was and the principle behind the device you put together?
Well, from everything I learned from the research that was done by Fitzalbert Popp especially, I discovered that there were that basically two different light. You have coherent light and you have chaotic light. And my understanding was and is that the coherent light is healthy light and the chaotic light is unhealthy light. So I searched for ways to split these light forms.
To split them?
To split them, the coherent from the
incoherent, chaotic
light. And I found that there were filters that could do that. And then if that is the cause of all disease, then the opposite of the chaotic should cure the disease. So we introduced a system in the old instruments too, which inverted the phase of the chaotic vibrations and then send it back to the body. And because two opposite waves neutralize each other, the disease-causing wave was automatically neutralized.
Well, that sounds pretty perfect because you're using information and you're using light to carry information.
Yeah, well, the biophotons, in my opinion, are information.
They are just like the sun is delivering a constant stream of information to all living systems.
Yeah, I mean, the whole cosmos does.
The whole cosmos, including every little cell in our body. Now, when people hear this, one of the things is, and you did understand and also research some of the frequency generation devices, such as the Rife device. And as people are listening to this, they'll say, well, what's the difference between using this biophotonic light to reverse a symptom versus using Rife technology? Can you explain the difference between them?
Well, the Rife technology, Rife sought the frequency of his bacteria and then bombarded them with the same frequency, thereby blowing them up. That was Rife's idea. And he could look at all these different frequencies that would blow the bacteria up under his microscope.
Right, when it was intact.
When everything was intact.
Yes.
But the Rife microscope, they have not been able to restore. So, a lot of people still go on Rife's old frequencies. But again, everything has changed. I mean, no bacteria will stay the same. It changes every 2 seconds or every 1 second. And
our bodies, our cellular beings must have changed since then.
Yeah, I mean, the frequencies for example, a bacteria, Rife could see what frequency would blow up that bacteria. You would see that under his microscope. Now, frequency is not the same as information. If you listen to a radio station, it broadcasts at a particular frequency. But if I generate this frequency, I don't get the same information as I listen to the radio station.
Yes.
Because the radio station has this frequency, this is a carrier wave, and on top of that, they modulate the music. And the music is the information, which is very different from the carrier wave.
Yes.
So we don't deal with the carrier wave, we only deal with information. information must be neutralized, not the carrier wave.
Well, and it is interesting, as you say, bacteria are changing by the moment, no
By the
less,
moment.
from 1920, 30, and 40
Yes.
up until now. And so the calibrations as a result of using that pristine microscope and that particular lens on the universal scope, which doesn't exist at this time, although it is being redone now,
say,
apparently.
yeah.
Yes, apparently they are recreating that and even better. But until that time, we can't see the new range of bacterial frequencies.
No, you can't see
And so
that.
what's happening when you use a Rife device now?
I think they bombard anybody with all kind of frequencies, and if they hit something or not.
So it's kind of a broad-based explosive,
Well, I mean, yeah,
vibrational
it's just,
explosive.
yeah, dynamite.
Yeah, a little dynamite,
Yeah,
hoping you get the
but
offending
if you
bacteria.
blow something up, you get all the debris.
Yes. Okay. Now, you say that it's not about blowing up the bacteria.
No.
And I know a lot of people have received, when it was done correctly and calibrated correctly for the body and bacteria of the day, they were able to cure cancer and reverse all kinds of disease, blowing up specific bacteria, not a whole minefield of different bacteria, but specific bacteria. But you're saying, using our own biophotonic light, we can actually change the behavior of even the most aggressive, nasty, life-threatening bacteria.
Yes.
And explain that to us. Take some time.
Well, in the first place, Louis Pasteur already said, don't bother about the bacteria. Look at the terrain.
Yes.
I mean,
The blood, the health of the blood. And
terrain
yeah.
is the body's own light.
yes.
You have to look at that, not at the bugs. I'm also convinced that if you have, for example, Helicobacter bacteria, which are said to cause ulcers, because they often are seen together. And
What's
then
it called?
Helicobacter.
Helicobacter.
Helicobacter pylori.
Okay.
That's a bug that they often find in the stomach, together with ulcers. And they say that bacteria causes the stomach ulcer. But the stomach ulcer already exists and then attracts the bacteria. And then to increase the symptoms. Because the symptoms are like the flashing lights on top of a police car. The flashing lights are there to attract attention to the police car. And the symptoms are the flashing lights. But you don't have to attack the flashing lights, because if that goes away, the police car is still driving.
Yes.
So you have to always look what is underneath.
So the light goes in with the information, takes a bacteria like E. coli. That's one thing you talk about.
We tried in research in the University of Auckland, New Zealand. We had a tissue culture, and we put E. coli bacteria in there. And they started doing damage to the tissue. Then we did our treatment device. We put electrodes in the tissue with the opposite E. coli information.
Yes.
And we did 2-minute treatment. And after 2 minutes, E. coli bacteria was still there, but were not damaging anymore.
See, that's interesting, because we are made of bacteria. Bacteria is our friend as well.
Bacteria is our friend,
yes.
but they have to be in, if you look at your intestinal bacteria,
yes,
they have to be in your intestines. They can't go anywhere else.
Right.
If they go anywhere else because of infections, say if you have appendicitis, it starts in the appendix, but doesn't stay there. The moment it turns chronic, it starts spreading over the total large intestine and total small intestine.
Well, now you have some stories about that. Let's talk about, take one anecdotal case of that woman from,
Belgium.
was it Belgium?
Yeah.
Yes, and talk about her situation so we can...
She had abdominal pain for 15 years. And the normal medical profession and alternative profession, they couldn't do anything about it. And somehow she came to me, and at that time I measured her, and I immediately said, "Oh, it's all appendicitis." And then when he said, "That's what I've been telling my doctor 15 years long," and he couldn't believe it, because he researched, he did blood work, and he couldn't find any number of increased leukocytes. And if there's no increased leukocyte, according to a medical professor,
leukocytes, yes.
there's no infection.
Right.
But I said, it is. And her appendix had gone from acute to chronic to necroticizing.
Oh, goodness, yeah. And so she was having a lot of pain.
Yeah, I mean, and...
But her doctor refused to remove the appendix. Didn't you suggest you need to get this thing out?
My experience shows me that if this is the appendix, and if it's necrotized until here, but this part is still alive, I can heal the complete appendix.
Okay.
But because I can see it's necrotizing, but I can't see how much it is.
Yes.
So I did 5 treatments, and in 5 treatments I normally can clear the complete appendix.
Right.
But if after the 6th treatment it's still necrotizing, I said, then get it out.
It's gone. Yeah.
And I told this woman that, and she went back to her doctor, and he still refused it. And by this time, her whole appendix area was swollen, and he still refused it. And that's when I wrote a letter to his doctor. I said, this appendix needs to go out now. And then with his letter, she took it back to the doctor, and then with his letter he decided to take it out. And when he took it out, he was totally surprised. He said, a totally rotten appendix.
Yes, gone.
Gone, and the body not showing anything.
In the blood.
In the blood.
That's where blood panels just totally fail.
They fail completely. And that this doctor then went on, because he was a surgeon, he started looking at other appendixes. And he found that 70% of all the people walk around with a chronically infected appendix.
70% have chronically infected appendix.
And that causes a lot of allergy, like celiac disease, like gluten allergy. I mean,
well, there's an example. One article I read on your work was talking about a little girl who was allergic to 60 different things.
Yes.
And her mother found her way to you, right?
Well, at the very, very, very end, that's when the little girl was about a week from dying.
And the thing is, just to say this, that's how a lot of people are. By the time they find their way to you, it's because they've already exhausted everything and they're really sick.
Yes.
And you take those on. And so this little girl was so
that's all
weak.
we get.
Yes, that's all you get. I mean, what a shame. If someone came and used these subtle therapies to begin with, you would never have to get that bad.
You never have to get that bad.
No. So let's talk about what happened with this little girl.
I mean, she was 3 years old. She'd been sick for 3 years from birth onwards. And she was getting more and more allergic. She was allergic to 60 different food substances. She could only eat 5 different food. And then she got the chickenpox. And after the chickenpox, she couldn't eat anything anymore.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
And that's when her mother heard about me. Because from a friend, they said, you need to go there. And I diagnosed, or asked her body what was wrong with it. And then it was not appendicitis, but it was a very bad case of salmonella. And I did my normal treatment. And I told the parents, in 3 days, she can eat everything again. And the parents said, he is crazy.
Yeah.
But because of the child changed completely immediately after treatment. She got a color back in her face and everything like that. And the next day, the child felt a lot better. And one of the things that got immediate reactions was yogurt. So I thought they immediately got lung infections and so.
Yes.
The parents decided to give the child a spoon of yogurt, and they immediately went with their ear to their chest. Well, nothing happened. And they gave her more yogurt. And more yogurt, nothing happened. And that day she ate 1 liter of yogurt.
Oh my gosh. And how long before she could eat a whole spectrum of foods?
And then 2 days later, they started to give her gluten, bread, no reactions. So from that moment onwards, she could eat almost everything again. And in I think in the first session, I think 90% of the problems were solved in the child. And the second, children have the great advantage that they react so fast.
Yes.
I mean, I think children and animals, they react so fast. And I think they have one thing in common. They do not think.
They do not think, they have no resistance, no belief systems in place.
Because very often the head is in the way.
Yes, absolutely. And you, not only that, you've done experimentation with plants and also with foods, and foods retain their freshness much, much longer. So, and again, no belief systems, in a pot of yogurt or a head of lettuce. And your first, as I recall, your first case that came to you was for liver cancer. Now, a lot of people listening to this think, can it actually reverse cancer? Can you use your own body's light to reverse cancer? So tell us about the fellow with the liver cancer.
Well, cancer, what we call cancer, is not cancer. When we see a tumor, we call it cancer. But a tumor, even if it is malignant, it is a symptom of the disease we call cancer. Liver cancer is it's generally a lot of toxins. The liver, as we know, is one of its jobs is detoxifying. It has to keep all its toxins.
Yes.
And at one point, the liver brings its toxins together and encapsulates it. Now, then the liver has a bag of toxins. And then we might get another bag, because then it's not metastases.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same point directing all the formation of tumors. Tumors don't go from one place to the other place. They don't spread horizontally. They all are created anew.
So where would that liver tumor be coming from? The
the
original toxic...
Yeah, it's a very toxic environment.
Mm-hmm.
And liver cancer I see as a self-protection mechanism of the body,
mm-hmm.
to protect the body from a lot of toxins.
Mm-hmm.
But the cause of liver cancer is very different than the cause of a fibrous tumor, for example, in your uterus. A fibrous tumor is always caused by the thyroid, and liver cancer is caused by the pituitary. And ovarian cancer is caused by the circulation.
By the what?
Circulation.
Circulation, okay.
And enlarged prostate is basically the same as an ovarian cyst. It's also a cyst. It gets enlarged by increasing fluids.
Okay.
And if you get increasing fluid, it means that your circulation doesn't pump enough back.
Yes.
And that means that the valves in the veins, they don't have the possibility of pushing blood back. And then you get accumulation
mm-hmm.
at the bottom. It's just gravity.
Mm-hmm.
You gravitate. If you have a cyst in your breast, ovarian cyst or enlarged prostate, it's all a circulation problem.
Mm-hmm.
And why does this circulation is not good anymore? Well, very often it's exhaustion of the adrenal glands, or it can be calcification of the artery, of the valves. If there's calcium stuck between the valves, then the valves can't move properly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also get problems like this.
Interesting,
so,
yes.
You have to look at all these things. And always have to go by what does the body tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't project anything.
When you have a situation like that with the tumors, is it like the appendix? Is it in that most of the information can be reversed in cancerous situations?
Yeah, if you have the example of liver cancer,
yes.
It's almost always toxins.
Yes.
And then you need to detoxify.
Mm-hmm.
And these tumors can all be reversed, especially, if they are before they're hardened.
Mm-hmm.
Because this system is wonderful for functional disturbances.
Yes.
But the moment a functional disturbance becomes structural, then it becomes far more difficult.
Yes.
For the body to handle.
Because you're talking about something then that seems that's so dense, the subtle energies of light aren't really operating the same, it stays coherent or incoherent?
Yeah, but it stays incoherent.
Yes.
And everything in this universe moves in spirals. And then at the bottom of the spiral, things get manifested.
Yes.
Now, if this process is working, if you want to reverse this process, you have to reverse the spiral.
So in cancer, you have to reverse the spiral direction.
You also have to, because if you get this spiral, it always moves in a vortex. But when it gets to the manifestation point, it goes the other way around. It gets dematerialized. And you can only dematerialize things if you take pressure off. I mean, 90% of all cancers are happening after a period of intensive stress. And stress means pressure. And especially in the United States, but everywhere across the world, we are experiencing more and more pressure. And
so how does this then affect the spin of the energy that creates the tumors to go into this chaotic pattern?
Performance pressure exhausts your adrenal glands. And then if your adrenal glands are exhausted, your kidneys start malfunctioning, your heart starts malfunctioning. You get numerous problems just by exhausted adrenal glands. And that will...
So the technology that you've created, can it fortify the adrenal glands, for example?
I mean, what I said before, I mean, the first thing we do is we clean up the hormonal system.
Right.
Of which the adrenal glands are a part.
Yes. Okay, so I have some questions on that.
Yes.
How do you, we talked about how Rife was able to determine the frequency of a bacteria before you'd use the electrical frequencies to blow it up. How do you determine the source of a disease, or what the symptoms are emanating from, so that you can get to the source? What is the diagnostic process like?
It's following logic. If you have, say, a bladder infection, okay, then I'm going to ask your body, what causes this bladder infection? I ask the body to give me information.
Now, do you do this through technology or through your own inquisition?
No, through technology.
Okay.
So the body indicates that your bladder is disturbed. And I ask the body, okay, what causes this disturbance? I ask the body, is this aluminium poisoning that causes bladder infection symptoms? Because it's caused by intestinal flora? Is it caused by strep infection or whatever? Is it caused by food poisoning? I offer the bodies, I said, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And the body at one time, yes, that's what it is. And the body responds to me with changing. First, we had in the disturbed states, we had a chaotic signal. And once I put the right remedy in, the body responds with a coherent signal.
Okay, so this is a matter of putting into the field the frequency of, you use homeopathic, the information, not frequency, information of homeopathic remedies, for example, which are wonderful, wonderfully subtle and complete. So you put that in the field as you're doing your inquiry, kind of a process, a logical process. Someone who's practicing this, obviously it's good to be medically trained and have some knowledge of the body.
Yes, definitely.
So you put this through, you go through the process of watching how the light responds till it hits that coherent state when you put the correct homeopathic remedy in?
Yes.
Okay, now from there you've discovered what it is.
No, then say if it's one of the intestinal bacteria. Now, my reasoning, if the intestinal bacteria are in your bladder, that means your intestines are disturbed. Because the appendicitis or whatever creates a climate in the intestines in which no intestinal flora can live. So they move out.
Yes.
So if I find the intestinal bacteria outside the intestine, okay, then I know there's something wrong in your intestines. And it could be appendicitis, it could be a whiplash. Whiplash causes great intestinal disturbances.
Interesting. And so once you've identified what it is, which remedy it is, then tell us how that interfaces with the human body, how the technology itself is used. So people can, we saw the machine on that little open bit. We
call
saw
it,
a couple
by the way,
of
we
glass
call it an instrument.
Instrument, and we saw the little glass rod. So tell us what you do with the person at that point.
Well, we can get information of all kind of remedies. We can have the remedy information of one of the intestinal bacteria. And what the remedy is the opposite information from the bacteria itself.
Kind of like homeopathy.
Yeah. Most homeopaths have no idea how homeopathy works.
Yeah, so you studied that too.
Yes, we did that
yes.
too. So, in the first place, we have these two rods, and the basic therapy is only light. This, whereby one of the rods absorbs all the all the light that the body is emitting, which consists of coherent and chaotic light. Then it goes to the instrument. The coherent light and chaotic light are split. The chaotic light is amplified and given back to the body.
The chaotic light is then made coherent. No.
The coherent light is made is amplified and goes back to the body. The chaotic light is inverted. It makes exactly the opposite.
Yes.
And on its way back, that's where it cancels out the chaotic light that's in the body. I mean, this goes with the speed of light. It goes about a couple of million times a second. And every cycle takes with it the changes that previous cycle has caused.
So how long would a person do this or sit with this device, instrument?
It's for adults, it's different than for kids. Adults do that normally for 10 minutes, and kids do it for 2 or 1 minute. But this is the body's own light only. This information of the remedies is modulated on top of the body's own light. And that's when we can, for example, we can clean that bacteria, or we can try to clean an acute appendicitis or a chronic appendicitis or anything else. It will all happen in 10 minutes time. And this treatment keeps working for 3 days. That's why we say you can have maximum of 1 treatment every 5 days.
Because it continues on.
Yeah, it carries on for 3 days, and then we give the body 1 day rest, or a little more, and then we do it again, because you can't overburden the body.
One of the doctors you work with out of Oslo, I mean, it took some time, I would assume, because I wrote here, it's usually the oddballs that change the world. That's a famous saying, having to do with all the breakthrough technologies and discoveries throughout history. It's always the oddballs. And someone like yourself who's gone off the path and continued asking questions when everyone else thought, you better give it up, and turn to a real career. So now science has started taking this up. It's you have been affiliated with, is it the University of Graz?
Yeah.
Graz, and then also this doctor in Norway, he was finding he had a lot of seasonal mood disorder from the lack of light, a lot of infections in people, and he was finding, why don't you tell us what happened with his work?
I don't know.
Oh, well, it was an article I read on it. Apparently, he was using your technology.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah, he was using your technology and finding that not only did he not have to prescribe antibiotics as much, but if he did have to prescribe them for a shorter course, but oftentimes didn't have to just prescribe any to people, because this technology would just wipe out whatever the base infection cause was.
It does.
Yeah.
So,
and so he was a convert, but there are a lot of, you have offices all over the world now.
Yeah, we have. And but I mean, even I've come to the conclusion that I always thought that antibiotics at once they worked. I think they stopped working because of bacteria getting resistant.
Yes.
But I learned that they never worked.
Really?
Because it seems that the bacteria, the top layer is killed, but the rest of the bacteria withdraws in the tissues. And they
It reemerges at some point.
And then reemerges. I mean, even because if somebody who was, when she was 2, she got penicillin for the infections then that she had. And 40 years later, I found, I gave the body the opposite of penicillin.
Mm-hmm. What would the opposite of penicillin be?
Well, I mean, penicillin has information too.
Yes.
And if you invert it, and you give that to the body, then the body gets inverted penicillin.
Mm-hmm.
But then, immediately, all the old symptoms came back within a day. So I thought, hey, what's this?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know, but I mean, it was very clear that the penicillin had never killed anything. It only kept it under.
So the goal is to restore the body to its original clean, functioning operating system with this.
Yeah, to restore all the function in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the body can do everything itself again.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the important things is that the immune system needs to be trained again.
So how does that process begin?
I mean, if you might get food poisoning,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the food poisoning always results in the symptoms of a cold.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you suddenly get cold again outside, then you must assume it's food poisoning.
Really? If you
Yes.
have a cold, you must assume it's something in the guts
Yes.
first.
Yes, and because the food poisoning bacteria, they infect all mucous membranes,
Mm-hmm.
the sinuses, the throat, or anything like that. Now, the body will deal with that, and then you might get a cold, and you can wait. You might wait 10 days, and then it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
A second time, you get a cold, it will be gone in 2 days, and then you don't get it anymore. I mean, because an allergy is an overreaction on an already irritated mucous membrane.
There's a lot of thought that the things we eat, the refined things we eat, sugar and refined carbohydrates and such, cause an environment that allow for the bacteria to flourish. So how does what you do interface with that?
If the body is in the right condition, the body deals with everything in a totally different way.
So in other words, if your body is already clean and clear and functioning
If-
well,
if
you can
you're-
eat whatever?
If your discrimination function
Yes.
works,
Yes.
then all that you get in is separated between what the body can use and what should be excreted.
And we're not doing that anymore.
We're
We
not
don't
doing that
function
at
like
all.
that.
The body
So,
eats anything. I mean, and even if you have junk food,
yes.
if your body works properly, then the body will reject junk food automatically.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot use it, or cannot use everything.
So it just passes on through, no real,
Yes,
yeah.
it does, but it doesn't know what to do with it.
It tolerates it but doesn't know what to do
No,
with
so
it.
it stores it.
Okay,
The trick is to get the body's discrimination system right.
yes.
So it will process everything right again, and then starts detoxifying the body, the small intestine, the stomach, the large intestine, because every system in the body has to work properly.
Yes.
And if you have restored everything, then the body needs time,
Mm-hmm.
and then it will slowly get up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, most people, they get incredible positive reactions almost immediately. The ones the system has been restored, and there are also people that that react opposite way
Mm-hmm.
to all kind of different things, or they don't react.
Mm-hmm.
And most time, those people are in what I call a spin inversion.
A spinning inversion.
A spin inversion.
Yeah, spin inversion.
Then
yeah.
the electrons turn the wrong way around.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the body starts working against itself.
Right. Is that what autoimmune is, more or less?
Well,
types
I think
of
so.
autoimmune?
Just with aggressive cancers.
Yes.
And leukemia is always spin inversion.
Okay.
And those are things we can easily.
So you can easily reverse. Okay. Let's talk about that for a moment. First of all, we still have a little bit of time left, maybe 5-6 minutes left. What does it not work on besides structural? We already just said functional, yes, structural, no. Is there anything else you found it just doesn't have any impact on?
No, we have to be careful with anybody who has organ transplants. We can't really treat them. Because one of the things which is necessary is to restore the discrimination system in the body.
That's hard. It's not your part, huh?
And the body's...
Yeah. It's not recognizing it. It's not yours.
So it once it recognizes it, it immediately says, we don't want it
We
anymore.
don't want it. Yep. Okay. So rejection.
We also have to be careful with people who have bypass.
Yes.
And if it's not done with the body's own veins, if it's not done with the body's own veins, we can treat. But sometimes it's done by plastic. We can't do that.
It's done by what?
By plastic.
Plastic.
Tubes.
Yes, yes. Artificial things.
If the tube disconnects from the artery or whatever, you can't do that.
Yes.
So
that makes sense. It will reject what's not natively its own.
But everything is everything is the everything that's not the body's own is a poison.
Okay.
Everything that's not the body's own, even this water that I drink, is a poison. And you eat salad, it's a poison. Bread, it's a poison. It's because not the body's own. Now the body has its digestive system to make it into the body's own. So
to break it down and go through the process to recognize it.
Yeah. And that it transforms it, and part of it is excreted.
Right.
But even allergy testing, what they test is something totally different than what is in the body. Because the body's, the saliva, the stomach, it all transfers it already. So you can't do allergy testing. It's bullshit.
Yeah. Okay. So it's BS. Okay. Allergy testing is BS. Okay. What about light itself? We can't talk about this without talking about the sun, which I brought up earlier, and the information coming from the sun. And you're really big on get rid of the sunglasses, get rid of the sunblock, and allow the sun.
Yeah, but I mean, since the light of the sun is so many times more intensive than it used to be 20, 30 years ago, everything needs to be in moderation. I mean, sun worshippers, you can't do that anymore.
No, you can't lie out at noon for 3 or 4 hours.
No, I mean, I myself, I also build it up slowly.
Yes.
I mean, I do 10 minutes.
10 minutes,
yes. And
taking a walk in the early morning when the light is still
when the
soft.
light is, in the early morning or late afternoon.
But it's important that we have it through our eyes.
Yeah, Dutch naturopathic doctor, an MD, he discovered that the increase in cancer came at the same time with the invention of sunglasses.
Of course. Interesting. Okay, enough said on that. Okay, now we have a couple minutes left, and what I wanted to bring up was I was excited about it when I read about what you were doing now, because you're now many generations, 6, 7 generations in from the technology that helped our friend here recover from all those infections back in the mid-'80s. But you have also started a device that is a tiny little thing about this big. You've created that people can use by themselves at home. I mean, once they know what the problem is, if you have food poisoning or whatnot, you have chips that go in and give that homeopathic information, and it works very similarly to the big unit?
It works very, very much similar, but it's a home device. And if you have regular food poisoning or something like that, you can put a chip in for food poisoning, and you can restore.
What about like sleep disturbance?
Sleep disturbance, you can.
And you have about 500 different remedies?
Well, yeah, but I mean, we have a number of standard cards.
Yes.
And to restore your whole hormonal system, for example,
Yes, yes. That sounds, and the appendix sounds like everybody needs that pretty much.
Yeah, and there's a basic program for whiplash.
Yeah.
You don't need a card for that. You just need to have the rods put in your neck.
Oh, interesting.
That takes 2 minutes and whiplash is gone.
So this is really where it's coming down to the people, because not, even though you have, 500, 600 different offices around the world, another 140 in the U.S., not everybody can get to an office.
I mean, that's why
you created it.
We created it. I mean, and we also wanted to have far more, the world would get far more insight to what their own light can do.
Yes.
And they're indeed, I mean, any practitioner, I mean, if he or she is fully booked, he or she can do maximum of 300 people a year.
Right. So we need to be able to take this on ourselves. So
we need to take it on to ourselves.
Well, I thank you on behalf of everybody who's going to be able to take advantage of this, because it's really brand new.
Yes.
So just coming out in the last couple of months, and it's about $1,000 and
yes.
$25 for the different programs and chips. Yeah. So a lot of people who have offices or small practices could even use the small one, it sounds like, to an extent, even though you can't do the diagnosis.
We have quite a few chiropractors.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, who use it for whiplash.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Well, Johan, I want to thank you so much for all the work you've done. And I mean, to me, nothing makes more sense in the world than using our own light to heal.
Yes, it is.
So, and now we can do it with these little devices. So, thank you.
Okay,
You've done a service for humanity.